Alright, so in a kind of strange turn of events here, I'm recording a video at like 6 AM in the morning on a Sunday, which is pretty weird, and I'm kind of questioning myself, to be honest, right here. But we get something of a small update, not really an update, more of a recognition from Bungie, more specifically from DMG, about the way the community is feeling regarding Destiny 2 right now. And while this commentary may seem relatively minor, I guess, given the lack of communication that we've had in 2026 so far from Twids and things like that, this still feels like a relatively substantial thing, right? So DMG said, fully understand that the lack of information is leading to a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and our teams are working to get you updated as soon as we can. But he adds, I can't apologize enough. I do find the timing of this tweet particularly strange because it's probably dropping at, I don't know, like midnight or the early hours of the morning or something on a Sunday. Yet, as we just mentioned, so far this year, at least, Twids have not really touched on the future of the game, and beyond that, there's been this sort of tone-deaf component where players are really frustrated, really concerned about a number of elements of the game, yet Bungie haven't even kind of recognized that in any of their communications, and that's why I find this particular tweet sort of strange because, well, why would you choose to talk about it now in this capacity? Maybe it actually indicates that there's a bit of frustration from folks who work at Bungie as well, right? We should keep in mind, yes, DMG clearly made the mistake of promising a roadmap before Bungie actually were in a position to deliver it, right? Yet, outside of that, obviously DMG does not run Bungie, doesn't manage their actual games or anything. He's a communications manager, so he's only ever really in a position to talk about what Bungie as a whole actually have plans to talk about, right? So while folks have personal likes and dislikes, we should just bear in mind there will always be a shoot the messenger component to DMG's job, which must be frustrating. Yet, as someone who works in the community, and when we look around the community at the moment, in the last few days especially, I've seen a lot of videos from creators really hammering home that they have massive concerns about the future of Destiny, some of them even talking about moving on to other games, getting a full-time job, in a different capacity. And obviously that's really rough. It also only reflects part of the community, right, when I talk about creators. I totally recognize there are plenty of normal folks who just want to play Destiny and enjoy it and have a reason to continue to engage with it into the future, right? That's why, while folks aren't always super eloquent in their feedback and their commentary about the game, most of it actually comes from a place of real passion, and that's why people still care enough to actually talk about it, right? People have referred to Destiny as a dead game for a long time, but the people around Destiny, the community in general, have one hell of a pulse for a community that revolves around a so-called dead game. And so there are a lot of passionate folks in this community. Let's look at a few of the responses here. Lucky10p said, appreciate the mini update and would like to say that people really want more frequent communication from the team. Even after the state of the game, it would be wise to consider over-delivering on communications for the rest of 2026 because the start of this year has been rough. And I totally agree with the sentiment of that. Obviously, Bungie can only communicate about what's real and what's happening, right? More responses here, really appreciate the message. The Twitter's felt tone deaf for a while, but if things weren't solidified or plans were being changed, this is enough for me, just knowing something would be coming down the line. Also, hopefully some work on PvP. Someone else said, we're aware that stuff was promised a bit early. I won't try and say people wouldn't be expecting something by now if we weren't, but I think people are okay with taking a step back from the game to play other stuff while we wait for stuff to be ready and to get the ball back rolling. That is true to an extent, right? Destiny not having a ton of content which is, currently super appealing is one thing, and we've been in that position many times over the years. But it is always considerably worse when Bungie are additionally not speaking about the future of the game, right? Because then on top of the game not currently being super engaging, the assumption becomes that Bungie aren't interested in it, and that's been especially apparent with the amount of effort that they're putting into the marathon conversation. The silence isn't just causing those things, it's actively pushing players away. You promised communication and then went silent. Your CEO should know that silence is the worst way of communication. If you stop supporting Destiny 2, tell us, then we know what's going on. If you want to wait to see how Marathon will run, tell us. If you don't know what the future of D2 is, tell us. But silence is not the way. This one hit kind of hard. I don't want to see my favorite game die because of Marathon. There are additional comments about Iron Banner, folks wanting to be excited about the game. The roadmap shouldn't have been promised, some folks said, and I guess I agree. And while some folks definitely kind of pull some positives out of this and it makes them feel a bit better, I get that that will not be the case for many, many people. But as we can see right here, this tweet's been up for just shy of an hour, and it's already getting a lot more traction than most of the things Bungie have been saying in general. It's got more likes than Destiny the Game's official accounts get on their tweets at the minute. So it just shows you how desperate people are for communication and the kind of impact that actually talking to players can have. Then there's the more amusing angle right here. Datto said, Bungie, they're drinking pee out here, bro. Please post about something. Apparently, there's some solo witness or drink pee challenge that's going on at the moment. Talk about desperation, man. And so, like I said, it's kind of a weird update. It's not an actual update about the game, but it is a recognition of the fact that players don't feel good right now. Last we've heard in most recent days is that Bungie have recently locked in an actual release date for May, which is when Shadow and Order is apparently going to drop. And this is a revelation that's occurred in the past few days, according to Paul Tassi. So, since March 3rd is now creeping up, we would imagine Bungie have to say something in the next couple of weeks, and maybe to an extent this is kind of some of the preamble to that, but as I've said recently, I don't want to sound super entitled, and I'm not saying that Destiny players are entitled because we're asking for info, by the way. Some folks got annoyed at me the other day for saying that. I'm not saying that we do sound entitled, I'm more saying for fear of sounding entitled, right? Which is me outlining my intentions. There is a difference. And yeah, we just want to know what the crack is. I think Bungie's handling of the whole marathon coming alongside Destiny thing, the timing of their communications, the way that obviously Destiny has suffered over the last year, then Bungie have made promises they haven't been able to keep. And right at the end of 2025, dropped a pretty good expansion, right, in Renegades. I know the Star Wars thing isn't everyone's cup of tea, but Renegades had some good gameplay, a little bit of good chase. For those who are heavily invested in Destiny, it was still a pretty decent expansion. And that momentum was allowed to just drop off the face of the earth after a few weeks, as we've gone into 2025, and then Bungie have naturally been pushing Marathon really hard because it is a big deal. But as I've said, it feels like the weirdest and the worst marketing strategy in the world to kind of give this impression of, hey, we're ignoring this thing that you're all really interested in, but you should totally buy into this other thing, which is way more divisive for a lot of players who have been engaged with Destiny for a long time. Not only is it a hard sell, but when over the last year, players have been speculating that literally this exact thing would happen, right? Where Bungie would push Destiny 2 to one side and only focus on Marathon, you're kind of confirming those fears, right? And when players literally expect you to do a bad thing and then you do that bad thing, even after you've been saying we are not going to do that bad thing, you reach another level of kind of affirmation where players say, damn, we were right. And so I think Bungie should have had a much better strategy to time the Destiny discussions alongside the marketing for Marathon. And who knows, that may have just encouraged a few more folks from the Destiny side to actually get into Marathon, right? Because to some extent, you could kind of frame it as, here's our thing we're doing in March. You can check that out or not, but then we'll be back with Destiny stuff in April or May, and then an expansion in August or September. How after 10 years can Bungie not have figured this communication pipeline out, dude? It's just bonkers. Having said all that, I don't personally blame DMG for it. I know some folks are not that forgiving, but as we saw with that roadmap slip-up, DMG can only communicate what DMG is allowed to communicate, and in instances where community managers or marketing people try and offer hope to the player base, where they're actually speaking out of turn, we end up with a situation like this, right? So there we go, that's the update for today. On the subject of Marathon, I know I've posted a few videos about it, and I really apologize for the folks who have not wanted to see that stuff in the feed. I've had a lot of comments from folks saying, oh, so this is a Marathon channel now. And that absolutely isn't the case. As I've said numerous times, Destiny is the thing I want to spend my time doing the most. I don't personally have a massive issue with Marathon, but I understand it's not everyone's cup of tea. I'm tracking it because it has a really big impact on us as kind of Bungie fans and as Destiny players in particular. But in addition to that, I'm sure some of you guys can recognize, if Destiny's really quiet, I have to try and invest into something else, right? I can't survive on nothing. So it can be frustrating for me trying to navigate my way through this, and I'm not invalidating anyone else's concerns about it. I'm just hoping that some players could kind of see my perspective and my position as well. In a lot of ways, I've actually not been doing it through choice, right? I've done it through a sort of necessity because we haven't had that stuff there to talk about with regards to Destiny. So that's the little update on that part from me. So hopefully when we get more communication from Bungie, which should be in the next couple of weeks, there will at least be some positives there. It's inevitable that we're going to hear about delays. So we should prepare ourselves for that. It shouldn't be a surprise when it comes because very obviously it is coming. But timing is one thing. The substance of Bungie's longer term plan is really, in a lot of ways, more important. And yeah, I know they've messed stuff up, but at this point, with this many years in, right, if you were annoyed at Bungie messing things up 5 years ago and that made you want to quit the game, and you're still annoyed 5 years later, and it still makes you want to quit the game, then I think you've kind of got your answer, right? We're either on board, and that doesn't mean we can't give feedback, but we're either still on board or we're not. And there is no right answer, we just have to make our own choices. I am on board. That's all I've got to say. Share your thoughts below. If you found the video interesting, emotional, stimulating, angering, whatever it may be, let us know in the comments. I'll keep you posted when Bungie do give us the official communications, but otherwise, cheers for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day. Fucking hell, why am I awake at fucking 6:30 on Sunday doing this?